episode of The Mind of Reese. Let's see. We are in Virgo season. We are about to enter into September. Today is August 30th. I'm sure you're going to be listening to this probably next week of some time. I will probably just be getting back from Ibiza, my Spain trip with my entrepreneurial women's retreat, which is so exciting. And I've been planning for this. When I heard about it, I just bought it and I was like, yes, I'm doing this with one of my mentors. And, it's always good to be in community. And so, yeah. And, living life bravely, like that's the whole point here. I am trying to live my life bravely, and bravery is a way of life. If you haven't listened to that podcast episode, I'd highly recommend it. It's probably the one that I've received the most beautiful DMs and comments about. I mean, you guys, I love you so much, and I'm so glad that it's really, really resonating with you. But yeah, today I kind of want to get into sponsorships. I had a download from the universe the other night, and it was just like, talk about sponsorships. And I get this a lot via, especially in my inner circle one-on-ones, when you enter into the vortex that is your own ambition and growth and desire to put skin in the game so that you can grow in a really massive and fast way. In my inner circle artist places, this is definitely one of those places where, sponsorships do come up. Artists want sponsors. But I want you to ask yourself, before you decide to just, go after it and try and get as many sponsorships as you can, is ask yourself the reasons why you want the sponsorship. Because often I find, and this is okay, like there is no judgment, but often I find that there are a lot of artists out there who just want sponsorship so they can be called a sponsored artist. And I have been there, okay? I am not one to skirt past the truth. I am highly, highly, radically honest with everyone around me and myself. As long as I know as long as I know it's my truth, then I'm willing to speak it out loud, and I'm willing to question myself too. And I have definitely been that artist in the first 3 years of my career when my career took off like lightning. It just went crazy pants when after I had got the tattoo show and everything like this. So it was just like, holy moly. And I'll get into like how I got the tattoo show and things like this. So it's kind of leads on how bravery is a way of life. If you haven't listened to that podcast episode, I highly recommend it. And putting yourself out there, putting skin in the game, like investing in yourself, mentorship, all this kind of stuff is really going to send you on the trajectory of being an artist that gets to choose what it is that you want to do with your career. And so when it comes to sponsorships, ask yourself the first question, why do you want a sponsorship? If you want it just to be a sponsored artist, that's really cool and all, but at the end of the day, it's really easy to get sponsorships from low-level, companies and products that are just like trying to push these products out there and trying to make you feel good by giving you a couple free things and then maybe 50% off. So like there are different levels of sponsorships when it comes to getting sponsored as a sponsored artist. And for me, I look at it from a perspective as like, after the thing that happened in 2016 when I lost all of my sponsorships and I lost pretty much everything, when I hit kind of rock bottom in the tattoo industry, I told myself after that moment, obviously, like all of this integrity, and I wanted to be in integrity with myself, but I also wanted to be in integrity with the values of the businesses that I work with. And, I get a lot of, and I think I even talked about this in my last podcast episode, but I do get a lot of like offers. I do. Like I am not only a tattoo artist, but I'm also a personal brand. I look at myself as a personal brand because at the end of the day, that's what we are. I'm selling myself. I'm not only selling my art is an extension of me. And that artwork goes from my content to my tattoos to my drawings, but my personality is really what sells. The vibe is what sells. And if I can display and express that personality of mine that is so authentic to me into the online space in really clever and diverse ways, that's how people get to know me, and then they want to work with me. And so my creativity, being an artist and being an artist yourself, that's what really helps people. That's what really gets you the momentum to really create a personal brand that allows you to invite in other brand deals, sponsorships, things like this. And so, I believe that you don't have to be the best tattoo artist in the world to get sponsorships, especially by tattoo companies. I've had some of my sponsorships for many years, and I'm 10 times better than I am that I am now. And what's really beautiful is that the sponsors that had sponsored me back in the day, they believed that I would get to that point because of who I am and because of what I believe in. And so I think there's a couple of these stories that I have told before, but if you're new here, I'll definitely retell them. If you're not, here's a fun reminder of all the stories on how I received a lot of my sponsorships. And just coming up with like the new of today, because I think I've had a podcast episode before about sponsorships, but I do want to kind of like renew it, refresh it, because the industry has changed and it is growing so much that there are new ways to make sure that you can go ahead and get yourself in if you really want in. So first things first is that when it comes to sponsorships, really find out what brands you love. Like I love a lot, like for instance, I love a lot of aftercare brands. I love Tattoo Lovers Care. I love Iconic just came out. They have a really badass glide that just came out in San Diego. They hit me up asking me for, what am I doing? And I'm still kind of feeling it out. I love Second Skins, and there's so many. I love, Ohana. I love Ohana because of what they believe in and their power of community and their power of family. And that's why like Ohana is like one of my favorites. But then there's also just like the glides, and I like the glides and whatever. But for the most part, they all kind of feel a little the same, right? So for me, when it comes to choosing, and I don't have a balm, like a tattoo aftercare or during care or pre-care sponsorship. I don't have that. That's not something that I have. I have companies that I am sponsored by that I get percentages off of their glide and balm. But at the end of the day, like I'm not truly sponsored by any balm company, which I can be. I'm very selective about the people that I express out, or the people that that I support. Wow, I can't believe I forgot that word. I'm very selective around the people that I support because I'm very selective, in my community. I want to be serving my community in a way that's authentic to me, not just because, oh, cool, I'm a sponsored artist. And to be honest, I do have a lot of sponsorships where I feel like I'm not giving each and every one of them the attention that I would like to give them in with that regards to thanking them and appreciation for all that they've done for me. And so I've actually come up with a content plan to do that because I feel like it's really necessary and I want them to know that I'm like obsessed with them. So these are the things, like these are the extra things that you also have to do is that like if you really truly want to have brands or sponsors in your realm, it's a two-way street. You have to create things for them as well so that they want to keep you on. Now, if they're a low-level sponsorship, if it's not like a really big sponsorship, you're only getting percentages off and you're not even getting free things or you're maybe getting some free stuff, then you're probably not going to have to like do all the crazy stuff. But the reasons why I do what I do is so that other sponsorships can see how much I appreciate and how much I do push my current sponsors out so that they are willing to come to me with a deal that is worth it, but also they have to show me that the family to be a part of is worth it as well. Because we're talking about integrity here. The other day I got a company, and I think I talked about this in my last podcast episode, was that a whiskey company came to me and offered me a really big brand deal. And I was just like, this is awesome. I saw the dollar sign. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, like this is super rad. They're gonna, they want to do the whole fly out, do the free tattoo thing. They probably saw that with the kombucha brand and they were like, wow, this girl like knows how to really sell it. I want to do this with her. However, I don't drink whiskey. I actually barely drink. And if I do drink, it's tequila. So it would be really against my entire values of sticking in integrity and authenticity just for 50 grand or 20 grand or whatever it was they were going to give me. And so it was just like, I said, no, that's a no for me. I also got offered $3,000 to be on a podcast, but then I was like, fuck yeah, I would love to be on a podcast and talk about tattoo business and mindset and things like this. And then all of a sudden it happened to be a really misogynistic podcast where they basically batter women beliefs and men relationships and all this stuff. And it was just a really awful thing to watch when I'm watching these women, basically get had by a man that's really good at putting people down, and that's like his job, and I respect his job, but I want no part of that. And so I don't need the money, I don't need the free stuff, I don't need any of that stuff, and neither do you. And neither do you. Hear me out with that again. You don't need it. And the moment that you say yes to something that's out of integrity, you're saying no to the things that could be in integrity to you. And so that's, for me, is a huge value. And by me saying no to those things, all I know is that I'm opening myself up to something better. You know, I always look at it from a perspective, if not this, then something better. If this doesn't work out, then something much better is on the motherfucking way. You know? And so that's what I look at when it comes to the very first and foremost thing. Why do I want the sponsorship? And do they adhere to the values that I have? There have been some sponsors where I've like decided to like part ways because I no longer like, I was like, you know what? I took the sponsorship because I wanted free stuff, and I just didn't agree with it, you know? And so there are some places that I go that I'm like, you know, I've been offered other brand deals from other companies and trying to get me on, and I'm like, listen, like I'm like, some people are trying to like take me from others, and I'm just like, I'm really loyal. Once I'm in. So it's like I'm really, really loyal. So these are the cases. And then you looking at yourself as a personal brand as well, it's also showcasing more than just the tattoos, you know? And I talk about this a lot in all of my podcast episodes. When it comes to business, you are a personal brand. You're not just your tattoos. That's just an extension of who you are. And when you decide to look at your business from a longevity standpoint and start to realize that you could be a tattoo artist for the rest of your life, but you are a multidimensional, multi-passionate human being, and that's not all that you are. And when you realize this, then you will start to show up in that authentic way. And when you do that, other doors open for you. Other opportunities will open for you. Like, I have been in the online space for a very, very long time. I have also been a very crazy person. Like, I'm definitely an entertainer. Like, I definitely know how to be on camera. I'm good at it because I've done it for so long. And so it's one of those things that I had to build up this confidence, but also I also had the value of like, I know what these platforms can really do to someone's career, to their job, and all of these other things. And so when it came to even just like the tattoo show, when I became a tattoo artist 3 years prior to that, trust me, 3 years prior to that, I got a tattoo show, to me starting tattooing. It's crazy. 2 years, actually. I think it was like 2.5. But I got it because I was so willing to put myself out there in so many ways. You know, I would go, you know, I'd be painting at bars, at big events. I would start network. I would start to know people. And this is when before, like, I even know how to use Instagram as a marketing platform. I was actually going in person to these places and meeting people. And that's how I got my apprenticeship. You know, I'm always putting myself out there in a way that doesn't feel comfortable, but at the same time, I know is going to be good for the longevity of my career, because what? I look at it from a long-term, you know, like long-term horizon, long-term big business. Like, I don't look at my business as like, okay, what can get me to tomorrow? I'm like looking at it, okay, what can get me to fucking 85 and look back and say, I fucking did it. I fucking killed it. I don't regret a thing. And I'm at that point right now, and I still got 50 fucking years to go, you know? So it's like, I want to always be saying, you know, I always want to be putting myself out there in a way that is offering me the opportunities to say yes or no to, instead of me searching and trying to hold on to any opportunity that just comes my way. And that's the building a life and business for yourself. And so when it comes to sponsorships, when it comes to brand deals, this is your first step. It's really understanding who you are, what it is that you value, and also understanding that by putting yourself out there in that way, you are going to attract the type of people that want to be in that space or want to support that. And it's also a two-way street. Once you find the brands that you really, really enjoy and you love, you start to tag them in things. You know, Luce was one of my inner circle artists back last year. I think it was 2022. And she worked with me for 3-4 months. And we got her not only to get better at her realistic artwork. If you haven't seen her realistic artwork now, oh my God, it's like night and day. I'm floored how beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. It was amazing, amazing. Number two, she also asked about sponsorships, and really all it was that it was me just believing in her, but her also just believing in herself, that just by putting herself out there in that way, that she's gonna get something. And so what she ended up doing, I was like, what you need to start doing is start tagging them in things. And then, you know, what ended up happening was that they re-tagged her in something. They like basically reposted it on her story. So what happened? She planted the seed within their mind. She planted the seed within their mind that she was like, hey, I like you guys. And they were like, hey, we see you. And that's basically communication saying, okay, keep doing what you're doing. And then at the end of it, she was about to ask. She was like, I'm going to ask them. I said, perfect. If you feel like that's the thing you want to do, you go ahead and ask them. She literally had already declared that she was going to ask them by telling me, hey, do you guys do sponsorship for artists? I really love your product. Wondering, you know, if you do, I would be honored and so elated and excited or whatever. You know, she was going to put herself out there. And what ended up happening, she got a DM from them first and she got sponsored. So it's like, we find where our values are. We put ourselves out there in a really beautiful way. Now, like when I look at Luce's content, it's like fun and bubbly, and it's so adherent to tattoo culture. And, you know, she's really putting her personality out there and her beauty out there and really owning who the fuck she is. And it's like these kinds of things, like all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like it was like she was a dot work fine artist type tattooer and kind of just did anything. And then she really wanted to get into realism, and she did. And now she's just continuing to manifest new things. She was working by herself and she really wanted community. And now she's working in a tattoo shop that invited her in. And, you know, and I guess apparently one of them had taken a class from me as well. And so it was just like, oh, here's this thing that they can relate on. And it just became like, now she's just surrounded by other artists that push her up to her highest. And this is where her momentum is just building and building and building as she's continuing to get to know herself, put herself out there. And now she's got sponsorships, and now she's traveling, and now she's going to do conventions, you know, and all these things. And I'm watching this person grow right before my eyes. And just a year prior, you know, it was a totally different story. So it's like, you guys, these things are like, it's really, really important to just put yourself out there in a really authentic way and know that you're a work in progress and, you know, a masterpiece all at the same time. Like, you're going to be the best you'll ever be today. Tomorrow you could be better. Tomorrow you might just be okay. But today is still the best you'll ever be. Every day is going to be the best you'll ever be. So do something about it, you know? Okay, so when it comes to sponsorships, put yourself out there. Talk about them. You know what I mean? They're not just going to come out of the woodwork and know you. For instance, I don't know if you guys know this story. If you do, love you. If you don't, here we go. So there was an opportunity that I had gotten to go to Germany and do a tattoo river cruise, which was the first of its kind. And this was awesome, you know, because what had happened was that I had said no to a convention that I was supposed to do, I think in like Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they were going to basically pay for my stay, pay for my booth. And I was like, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to go. What ended up happening was I said no to one thing and a door opened in another way. And then I just suddenly, all of a sudden, got an opportunity to go to Germany on the Mayan River to go do a tattoo river cruise, all expenses included. Plus, I brought my apprentice with me at the time. This was Jackie, and I brought Jackie with me. We got a like honeymoon suite on this boat. I tattooed pretty much everybody on the boat. You know, I made a little bit of money. I got to travel for free. I got my plane for free, the thing for free, whatever. And then the other person that they ended up bringing was Heather Moss and Bobby Moss. If you've never met the Mosses, or if you don't follow the Mosses, they are amazing. I mean, if you want to talk about a fucking businesswoman, which I should have her on this podcast now that I think about it. If you want to talk about a motherfucking businesswoman, this woman, oh my God, as a model and as a tattoo shop owner and a piercer, and she owns several shops all in Arizona. And I'm just like, this woman is, she is on another level of business. Like, she's got it in the bag with like like 4 kids, I think, and then their kids have kids, and like a lot, like a whole farm of animals. Like this, she's got it. Like I highly recommend it. Actually, you would never even know just watching her Instagram like how fucking boss babe this woman is. You never know. You'd have to talk to her. So she ended up being a host on this river cruise, and so we got to talking. We got to know each other. I ended up tattooing her as well on this boat. And then all of a sudden she was like, you know what? You should come to North Carolina to go to World Famous Inc.'s convention and, you know, meet the owners of World Famous Inc. And it was so funny because earlier that year, this was in October, I did this cruise. Earlier that year in January, I was like, I want to be sponsored by World Famous Inc. I just need to understand how. So I kept tagging them and everything. They kept re-tagging me, so I knew I was planting the scene, and I kept going forward with it, kept buying their ink. I invested in their ink. I invested in putting myself out there. I invested in making content for them, even without having anybody like say, hey, do you want to be a part of this? I was just like, nope, I'm going to scratch their back and see if, you know, they're going to be like, ooh, we like this. So finally, I decided to switch all of my flights around. Jackie went on her own, going home by herself. I went to North Carolina right after this. And, you know, I didn't have any appointments because it was so last minute. So I like posted about it. I sent an email out. A guy came through. I was like, he's like, you could do whatever you want on me. And I was like, all I want is to enter this into a competition. And if you know me, if you know me, you know that I don't really give a shit about competitions. Like, they're great, and I know that a lot of people love them, and I know that it feels really good to win things. But for me, it's just not my thing. You know, I don't personally care about waiting around and making my client wait around till 10 at night so someone can get announced if we win or not. However, you know, like, for this one, I just knew that I needed to be seen. And that's another way of doing this. So, before we get into it, I'm going to finish the story, and then I'm going to tell you why conventions are so important as well for sponsorship. So, when it came to me doing the tattoo, and then all of a sudden, you know, I put myself up there for best of day, I got second place. Best of day, and I was like, fuck. I really wanted first, but second place was great because it still put me up there. And what ended up happening was that I had Lou and Lou's wife come up to me and like start talking to me about potential sponsorship. They actually have like a blog or a magazine, and they wanted me to talk about what happened in 2016 actually. And I was at the time, I think this was 2018. Yeah, 2018 I think this was. And I was still feeling 2018 or 2019, and I was still feeling really guilty. I was still feeling a lot of emotions on that. I still felt a lot of shame around it, and I was just like unwilling to talk about it at that time. You know, I mean, it was 2 years after. I still felt like I didn't really belong in the industry, and then when she brought that up, to ask me to be in the magazine and to do that, I was like, oh fuck. And so in that moment I thought, there's no way they won't sponsor me. I'm damaged goods. Like, and I was just like, well, you know what? Like, it's okay. I got this. I did the second, you know, I got second place, And, yeah, so I ended up being like, you know, no, I just don't feel comfortable doing that, but thank you so much, you know, for the offer. And thank you so much for having me and letting me just crash your party and all this kind of stuff. And she, you know, just like talking back and forth about being like, you know, about the industry and about what I had done. And like, even Heather was just like, you know, we all fuck up, you know, and everybody's been so kind, especially to my face about it. You know, and when it's the internet trolls, it's always like crazy, but I was just unwilling at the time. And I don't know if like at the time when I got home from that trip, I was a little disappointed, but at the same time I was like, you know what, I did hold my integrity and I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I'm glad that I gave myself a lot of compassion, although that was really, really tough at the time because I didn't really understand how to self-soothe or how to give myself the kind of compassion that I needed without the berating of the ego. And so nowadays, oh my God, I was just regaling to my partner the other day about, I was like, you know what, the biggest one I think I've had this year is that it's not all the financial stuff. It's not opening the shop. It's none of the stuff outside. It's the amount of beautiful self-talk I have automatic. the new habitual self-talk, self-compassion, self-love, self-forgiveness that I have within myself whenever something has come up that makes me feel a raw emotion that I'm trying to avoid feeling. And so it's like really interesting how that's like my new normal is to really find that inner self-love, that inner self-compassion, that inner forgiveness, because I truly believe that that's what's going to get me further than I've gotten myself here today. And without that, I know that I can build based off joy and love and kindness to myself over the old way of the old paradigm of pushing, shoving, negative self-talk just so that I can move. And although it got me here, or although it did get me to somewhere, it got me to a place, because not here, because I got myself to this point in the last few years with a lot of love. And but it did take a lot of work. But anyway, so it was really rough. And then all of a sudden I get home, and a week later I get this phone call. And it's Lou's wife. And she goes, listen, I don't give a shit what you've done in your past. I don't care. I think you're an amazing artist, and I think that you have a lot of potential, and we would really like to sponsor you. And I was like, what the fuck? So not only did I manifest this into my world, I said no to the things that did not light me up anymore, the values. I stuck to my values. I said yes, which opened up the opportunities to meet new people and network and get to know people that knew other people that got me into spaces, and here we go. So community is really everything. Networking is a huge part of what you are doing, especially, and I'm not just talking about, we can be introverted and still network. Introverted does not mean shy. Introverted just means that you refill your cup alone. But it does not mean that you are not confident. It does not mean that you feel weird around being around other people. It just means that it's not your favorite spot. Like for me, I'm introverted. I like being alone. I like being by myself. Today I found myself on a walk with my dog, and everybody coming up to me and trying to touch my dog, and I'm just like, I know my dog is huge, but at this moment I was like, I just wanted space. And it's all my beautiful neighbors who are just amazing. But my dog right now, he's very skittish around men, and especially on leash, and especially when they come so close so fast. So it's like, and I was holding like a bag of poop and a coffee, and I'm like holding my big dog, and I can't press my little buttons for his e-collar, just so that like vibrate buttons and stuff, in order for him to just like chill out and relax. So he's kind of getting all uppity, and all I want is for everybody to for me to go invisible at this moment. So what I mean by introverted is that I'm just like not in the mood. Sometimes I just want to have a walk and not have to talk to anybody. But at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to be around people. I can still be confident and talk to these people and be very confident in telling them like, hey, I'm just trying to get home and my dog is just a little skittish right now. I'm so sorry. And it's like that. Like I'm not overtly people pleasing in that way, if that makes sense. So introverted, just because you're introverted doesn't mean you don't network. Okay? Shy, these other terminologies that you might put on top of yourself, the hat that you might wear, are things that you can actually overcome. And don't give yourself the excuse, especially if you know you're in a business for growth, and especially if you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs, I'm sorry, but there is networking involved. There's community involved in that, and just find your community. That's why I'm like, instead of me trying to fit the mold of a tattoo artist that is in whatever community, I just create it myself. I'm just like, fuck it. I'm doing my own thing. And I'm going to put myself out there in a weird way where I start talking about meditation, somatic healing, and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, a couple of years later, I start seeing everybody doing it. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like this is a movement. Like, let's go. Like, this is the way. This is a new paradigm, new earth way. And it doesn't make me mad. It makes me fucking stoked, because the more people that see it this way, the more people are going to really put themselves out there in a way that's so beautiful, because it's what this world needs. This world literally survives on light. So if you can't shine your light, you are doing a disservice to the planet. This literal planet, the planet Earth, survives off the sun light. It needs sunlight to survive, to live, to thrive. And if you are hiding or dimming your light, you are literally doing a disservice to the entire world. So all the people that are putting themselves out there in this really beautiful way that I'm seeing every single day, every time I even open an app on a social media app, I am like, oh, I'm in awe. And I sometimes get a little teary-eyed because some of them I see because I know that they're in my spaces, and I'm like, man, if there was anything that I did to spark that, I'm doing my job. And that's all I care about. And so I'm going to continue to put myself out there in really authentic ways. Really fun, authentic ways. I remember the first time I ever put a meditation out there talking about somatic healing. I was so fucking nervous. It's like, what the fuck? Nobody's going to get this. Everybody's going to think it's weird. And of course, it's always the things that you think you shouldn't put out there, you put out there and they go viral. And you're just like, not that I needed it to go viral, but it's more of just like the universe letting you know, like, hey, don't stop here. Continue on. Continue to put yourself out there in an authentic way. When I think that things go viral, I think it's just the universe letting me know that, like, I'm on the right path. Because later on I post something similar, it doesn't go viral again, I'm not going to get mad at it. I'm just like, no, I'm on the right path. I already know. You told me once. That's cool. Thanks. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like virality, for me now these days, it's not like how many times can I go viral. It's more like, ooh, the universe is letting me know, like, I should put this out there like this, and I should be talking more about this. Like, this does light me up, and it doesn't make me less than or weak or whatever to do it. So again, it's funny, I'm talking about sponsorships, but yeah, we always revolve back into your authentic self. And I mean, that's the way of the world, man. Like, you want anything, you want growth. It's all about knowing what it is, knowing yourself so well to know what it is you want, declaring what you want, putting yourself out there, and knowing how you're going to help people transform. People are buying a transformation from you. People are buying a result. You see what I'm saying? So don't only focus, if you're focused on, getting sponsors, focus on your art. Focus on putting yourself out there in a really beautiful way. Those two things are really important, especially if you want tattoo sponsorships. And again, I think that's why we go into convention. We go to convention and we start to meet people and we put our stuff out there. Like when my apprentices, or like the people in my shop, and get very young at the time, I was like, no, go put your stuff into these competitions. And they are always like, Reese, like, you don't like competitions. You don't put anything up there. And I'm like, well, no, because I don't really need to right now. I could, and I will, especially at those big ones where I'm like, man, can I really go up against all these big guys? Like those are the ones I'm like, okay, like what can I do that would be really, really stand out? But when I'm talking like for anybody that's new into the industry or hasn't gone to a convention or hasn't like entered things in, do that. That's how you get noticed. That's how you get seen. A lot of times, people don't realize that by putting themselves out there in this way, they never know. Even if you don't win, it's like, at least you put yourself out there. At least you put yourself out there, and that is a win in and of itself. But then it would only spur you on to get better at what you do in order for you to maybe win one day. I remember a really good friend of mine, Clint Cummings, we dated. We were on a television show together, and he believed in me so much. He got a tattoo from me, and behind my back, at the very first convention I had ever done, he got a tattoo from me, and without me knowing, he entered it in, and I won first place, small black and gray, in this huge tattoo convention, and all I heard was my name, and I'm like, huh? And I was like, my name? And then he's like, Reese, are you coming up? And this is Carl. Carl is at every Villain Arts. You know him. He's the red goatee guy. Carl's amazing. If you don't know Carl, God, Carl's was the first guy to ever give me an award. And I've known him for 10 years now. Every time I see him, we're always like shooting the shit. But like, amazing guy. He is the MC for everything Villain Arts. And, yeah, when I heard my name being called, that was the first time I ever met Carl. It was the first time I ever won an award, and it felt so good. And it got me a lot of attention. And at that time, it was like I was getting sponsored by other sponsors before, 2016 happened. But then 2016 happened, And then I was able to regain all that momentum from the other sponsors that I do have now. From machine sponsors, we have FK Irons, World Famous Inks, Ghostline app, which is an app how to create your stencils, Second Skin, FYT, Adina for gloves, and all things sterile, even tampons. Like, I have tampons for free. It's like crazy pants. Yeah, so if any ladies out there that want to come work for me, I got you free tampons, baby. But anyway, you guys, this is how you get sponsored. These are the ways that I personally, from a spiritual lens, get you to your sponsorship. So I hope that this was really helpful. If you have any other questions about this, please do not hesitate to ask me any questions at all about anything. I'm always open to, doing these podcast episodes in a way that you can basically, like, I'm answering your questions as well. And so that you don't feel like, this isn't something that is always created for you. And that's what I want. I really want this to be a business place to thrive for you, and for you to feel connected to me in a way that, like, we're besties. We're best friends, you and me, sisters, brothers out there. Like, DM me. Let me know that you love it. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's something you really want me to talk about. I would love to know your feedback. And if there's anybody you'd like me to have on the show, I think we're going to try and get Laura Marie. I'll probably get Heather Moss. I mean, I think she's a badass business person. But if there's any other person out there that you really like hankering for, and you wanna ask about them, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, you guys have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. I am so excited. I'm about to be heading off to Spain in about 2 days. Woo! And I'll tell you all about it. Inspired Academy has started, and it starts, and I'm so excited for all of my students in there, all my past students and new students. I'm so, so excited, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Love you, and goodbye.